All right, we are back. Bet MMA Radio Podcast. Pleased to be joined by former Strikeforce Women's Bantam weight champion Miesha Tate. Miesha, thank you for your time.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
I know that you're busy. You're actually at an airport right now, going from one place to the next, doing a Toyo Tire signing there. So I do appreciate you taking the time in your busy schedule to talk with me here.
Oh, sure. It's no problem. Glad we can finally make it work.
All right. So there's really no way to tiptoe around this. So I'm just going to get it out of the way. I did survey the entire MMA fan base via the internet. It was difficult. It took a while. 92% male population. The question was, who is the sexiest fighter on the planet? And the results are in, and the overwhelming answer was actually Yoshihiro Akiyama, a.k.a. Sexyama. Do you have any words of congratulations to Akiyama?
Yeah, he's good for him for being sexy.
Well, he is, and the fans aren't ashamed or at all worried about, speaking the truth. So with that out of the way, though, on a serious note, you're coming off of what was a very entertaining fight. Unfortunately, you did come out on the losing end with Ronda Rousey. It's kind of crazy to think that it was only one round. I guess the question that I wanted to know, and I'm sure a lot of people wanted to know, is considering the situation you were in, do you have any regrets about, not tapping or the situation there?
Not really, no. I mean, I think if it was to happen again, I would do the same thing. It's just who I am. I can't help it. In the heat of the moment, I'm just not the kind of person who wants to give up. So, I kind of wish that I would have held on even longer and, would have been able to ride out the rest of the round and see what would have happened, but, just one of those things. It just played out the way that it did, and I'm really hoping that I can get a second shot at her sometime down the road.
Right. And what happened with the arm? I heard basically you said you tore everything, or what was the situation there?
Yeah, I just tore a lot of the tissue in there, a lot of tissue damage, but there was no break in the bone, so it dislocated obviously, and then it went back inside in the cage, I think, and went to hospital, got x-rays, nothing was broken, so it was just a lot of tissue and ligament damage, but it's doing really well now, and I'm really happy that I didn't have to get surgery or anything like that, so
That's
what
good.
can I say?
That's good. And where are you in, I guess, is there a recovery process you do have to go through, or the suspension process for an injury, or what's the situation there?
As far as the treatment right now?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm basically just continuing physical therapy. Should be finishing that up here pretty soon. The strength's come back almost to 100%, and I have full extension back in the arm, and really seems to be coming together nicely. I know my doctor and my physical therapist are both pretty surprised. I think, they saw the fight, and they were, my doctor I know was kind of horrified. He was just absolutely convinced I was going to need surgery, and I kept telling him, I don't need surgery. I'm fine. It's fine. And, now he's like, wow, you're just incredible. So he's like, your healing time is pretty miraculous, and, he's stoked for me. So I'm definitely doing good things with that, and I began training again, and it's just exciting for me. I can't wait to get back in there. It's kind of remotivated me in an odd sense of the word.
Right. Now, has Strikeforce talked to you, or anybody from Strikeforce spoke with you about when you might be back in the cage and who you might be facing next?
No, not at all. I haven't heard a single thing. Yeah, I think they're kind of just waiting for me to give them, the okay or whatnot. But, I still have to get my final appointment with the doctor to get cleared. And, so I think they're just kind of waiting. I don't think they've given it much thought. And I haven't given it, a whole heck of a lot of thought either, besides that I just want to fight someone ranked in the top 10 so that I have the fastest route back to the title, So.
Right. Yeah,
that's my only request.
Is there anybody in particular, I don't know if it's out of respect or out of just, competitive nature, whatnot, or even dislike that you do want to fight? If there was, is there somebody, a name that you say, you know what, I want to fight this person next?
Yeah, I mean, I'd really like to fight Alexis Davis. I think that I've watched her for a long time, and she's really a great fighter. And I think that her and Kaufman's fight was awesome. And I don't know, I like her, but she understands, and we both understand that business is business. It comes down to that's what it is. So I think it would make for a great fight, and it kind of makes sense. We were both on the losing end that night. She lost to Kaufman, I lost to Ronda, and so let's see who's better out of the two of us.
Right. And in regards to fight, the hype before the fight, obviously in your situation with Ronda Rousey, lots of trash talk, definitely from Ronda's side, and she seems to be embracing the whole the hype side of things, and it looks like Sarah Kaufman is getting involved in some trash talking with Ronda now. What is your opinion on setting up fights through the trash talk and the hype around that?
Well, I think there's got to be a good guy and a bad guy kind of a thing for it to have the mass appeal that it does, and I think that Ronda plays the bad guy perfectly, and a lot of people like it because it's entertaining, and so I kind of fed into that, maybe a little bit too much looking back on it now, but the big picture for me was to get butts in the seats, and that's really what my big objective was. Even more important than winning the fight was to ensure our future in this sport, and so I really engaged in it a lot more than I ever have before because I thought I'm going to try to make the most of this, and people really seem to be liking it, so I'm going to play into it, and I did, and I think that that's kind of maybe her way of detracting people, I guess, and the people, her opponents, I should say. So, definitely think about it a little differently the second time around, and, I don't know how that's going to work out for Sarah, whether it's really bothering her or whether she cares, but I'm excited for the matchup, and I'm excited for the fight, and, I'm looking forward to that. I've heard that, possibly in August or something like that. I don't know if that's a rumor or if that's confirmed or whatnot, but I've been hearing that, so looking forward to it.
Yeah, you had mentioned something about the future of the sport, and I'd imagine you're talking about women's MMA. Do you feel that there is an uncertainty with the future of women's MMA? Obviously, it's bigger than it's ever been, and it looks like it's getting bigger. But is that something that's still in the back of your head, and maybe other female fighters' heads, where they're worried about potentially where to fight next in women's MMA?
For me, it is, and I think for most women, it should be. I definitely don't think that we are to a point where we can just sit back and be comfortable and relax. We definitely still have a lot of ground to make up as far as filling the footsteps that the men's MMA is put in front of us, and there's a lot of people that still speculate whether the women can perform and whether we can put on exciting fights and whether we're strong enough to actually knock each other out, and so just a lot of questions I think people have that we have to deliver those answers, through our performances. So it's definitely still, in my opinion, not completely stable, and I don't know if the relationship with Showtime and the UFC and Strikeforce, if it's all working out, and what happens if when the contract comes to re-sign with Strikeforce and Showtime and they don't like the way things are going on either end, then what happens if they demolish Strikeforce or absorb it? What does that mean? Have we done enough to say, yes, we belong in the UFC in the people's eyes that matter, like Dana and Fertitta and, those people. So, I am not at a point to where I'm relaxed. I think when we get to the UFC, I might be able to take a sigh of relief. But until then, we still got to really work hard to get that recognition and earn our place.
Dana White's been very vocal about his stance on female MMA and females in the UFC. Do you think you're any closer, female MMA, at getting into the UFC? Do you think do you see it actually happening in the future, or what's your thoughts there?
I think so, personally. and call me crazy, but I guess I'm kind of always one of those people that strives for idealism. I don't like to settle for what is here and now, or what some people may think was impossible. I like to strive for that, the impossible. And, I think that it is definitely a realistic possibility. I mean, just look at how much Dana's mindset on women's MMA has already changed. I mean, if you asked him what he thought about women's MMA 2-3 years ago, you sure bet your butt you would have got a different answer than what he's going to tell you today. And, the basic difference between the answers was it used to be no way, no women in the UFC, there's not enough talent, there's not enough depth, it makes for terrible matchups, and, his one experience with watching women fight was a terrible mismatch and, left a bad taste in his mouth, and he just really had no interest in it. And now I think he sees the value in it as far as being entertaining, and, I think that he sees that we're actually we're progressing at a fast rate. There's a lot of women coming into the sport. There's more matchups that can be made, and that people like it. And that's, at the end of the day, that's what really matters. If he can sell tickets off of it, then it's a no-brainer. Women are obviously going to be in the UFC because he's a businessman. And even if he didn't still like women's MMA, he can at least probably step aside and say, well, if I don't like it, a lot of people do. And I actually think that Dana's really softened up to it. So I'm pretty excited to see what the future holds.
Nice. Yeah, I have seen a bit of a change, a lot of a change in his attitude. And even in my attitude, I always felt women's MMA was entertaining, but I didn't see enough variety of names, at least in one area. Or if you go scour the universe, or at least Earth, you can definitely bring together a solid bunch of female fighters. But how many in each weight class and whatnot? But I definitely think that there are giant steps being made at this point, and the one thing that's almost guaranteed, there's always hype about stealing shows and whatnot, but I can't think of a time where there's been a women's fight and it was kind of like, all right, now it's the women's chance, and people were like, oh man, that was boring. It's almost always been exciting, and I say almost just in case I forgot about a fight, but I can't think of one. I can't think of actually one where I was like, man, that fight was not entertaining. So I mean, that's obviously a big thing.
Yeah, that's what it boils down to. Entertainment, that's what it is. It's an entertainment sport. It's not just about the sport, it's about entertaining too. So, I don't know. I think the women kind of bring it. I think that, and a lot of people underestimate, so I think they're kind of blown away when they're like, wow, these girls can actually fight. I wasn't expecting this. I was thinking, oh, girl fight, this and that. And they kind of get this premeditated notion of what they think women's MMA is. And then when they see what it really is, they're kind of like, wow, I think I'm a fan of women's MMA.
Now, what are your thoughts on Invicta Fighting Championships? Do you like what they're doing? And if you had an opportunity to fight for them, let's say I believe some contracted fighters for Strikeforce were able to go fight in Invicta. Would you take advantage of that situation if given the opportunity?
Oh, absolutely. I think Invicta is an awesome promotion. What they're doing for the women, it hasn't been done yet. And I think it's just amazing, and I would definitely love to be a part of that promotion if at all possible, because that would mean that I would get to fight more, and I'm all for fighting more.
How many times a year would you like to fight?
At least 3 or 4, at least.
Right.
That would be nice. I've been averaging, seems like once or twice, and to me that's just not enough, because when you're a competitor, that's kind of like how you feed your soul, how you keep the fire going and the drive going to want to work hard in the gym every day, and those things that motivate you, and you feel like you learn the most. At least I do. I learn a lot about myself when I compete, win or lose. I can pick myself apart and say, okay, well, this is what I do in a real high pressure live situation, so this is what I need to work on more in the gym. It's hard to simulate that even in training. I mean, you can train and train and train, and I'm all for it, but you cannot recreate the time spent in the cage, and you just learn so much about yourself. So I feel like when that gets sparse, you kind of feel like you're starving a little bit, and you're like, oh, this kind of isn't as awesome as it used to be when I was fighting 5 or 6 times a year, once a month. I felt like there was just so much to look forward to, as opposed to once or twice. Once every 6 months. It's kind of like, it kind of sucks.
I gotcha. Now, I mean, as a champion or as a contender or somebody whose opponents would be limited. Like you can't just fight anybody simply because a you're one of the best in the world, and I guess that's it. So they can't just put you up against anybody. Do you think it's possible for you to fight top female fighters, 3-4 times a year?
Well, I think if top female fighters were fighting each other 3 or 4 times a year, there would be a lot of changes in the rankings. You know, up and comers would have more of an opportunity. If there was more fights, things would be moving at a lot faster pace. You know, the top 10 would be changing a lot. You know what I mean? I really think that the more opportunities the girls have to fight and get experience and work their way up the rankings, you know, especially, you know, maybe the top 5 might stay a little more solid, but you know, the bottom 5 in the top 10 rankings would be moving a lot. You know, as people are going to be trying to, girls are really going to be working hard to get in that, break the top 10. You know, that was a huge goal of mine, and when I did that, I felt great. And then, you know, breaking the top 5, and then it went to becoming number 1. You know, and now I'm still in the top 5, so I got to strive to become number 1. But it's like the further away from it you are, almost, you know, the more hungry you are, because it's you know, you got to get there, and so you're working really hard. And I just think that yeah, there's a lot of girls coming out of the woodwork that people don't even know about. You know, it's not that the girls aren't even there; it's that people don't get the chance to see them because they're not getting the mass exposure, they're not getting televised fights, they're not getting, you know, the kind of promotion that they need to really make them a name where people would recognize that. You know what I mean? So it's not that the girls aren't there. So yes, I do think that there is top level competition that I could fight 3 or 4 times a year.
Okay, and do you think that, do you think it's possible that a lot of the girls might not be getting the, I don't know, the push or the opportunity? Do you think that appearance has anything to do with it? And I also put it kind of together with the question of, do you see a time in the future where two females can be the main event, where let's say the females aren't exactly what the norm would be considered for attractive? Do you think there could be two people who are the main event, and the males, the male and the females fans of MMA tune in 100% to see a fight, and not potentially because, well, she can fight and she's hot?
Oh, that's a tough one. You know, I'd love to be able to say, yeah, you know, but I think that the truth of it is we're a little ways off from that at this point, because I mean, we're still working to gain headway as far as even being accepted as a legitimate sport, you know. And so when you have attractive females fighting, it seems to grab the attention in the first place, you know, because people tune in because they're like, oh, you know, these girls are pretty, and they watch us fight, and then they gain the respect for us as fighters. You know, it seems to have to work that way. People want a reason to want to watch women's MMA, not because they right off the bat are going to respect us necessarily as athletes. You know what I mean? It may take something extra to get people to want to tune in. You know what I mean? And so I think that's what we've seen so far. So I think maybe we're a little ways off from that. So I don't know. You know, I think maybe, hopefully someday, but I don't know. You know, maybe that's part of the reason why Dana has an issue with it. You know, because he just doesn't know if he can promote women's MMA without that kind of appeal. I would like to think so. You know, that's part of striving for the idealism. You know, but can we get people to look past looks? You know, it just seems like as a society, people are just so focused on that. No matter what it is, you know, attractive people get further in life. It you know, it doesn't matter what you're selling, what you're doing. You know what I mean? It's just the way of the world.
Yeah, no, I can definitely probably agree with that. I've got so many things in life just because of how attractive I am to the female population. So
See, so you know how it is. You
yeah,
speak from experience, right?
it's a gift and a curse. Man, I don't know what to do. Um, just a couple more questions. Last January, Christine Cyborg Santos tested positive for anabolic steroids. Do you think that performance enhancing drugs are an issue in women's MMA, and also just MMA in general, men's MMA included, obviously?
Well, I mean, I think with any sport, you know, we've found that people want that next, they want that next level of achievement. They want that next level of athleticism. They want that edge, and when it starts getting really competitive where you have everyone on your toes, it seems like any sport wants to, there's going to be some kind of athlete that is going to choose to take, performance enhancing drugs or supplements or whatever. And, it's unfortunate, but it's not limited to MMA. It's not limited to men's MMA. It's not limited to women's MMA. It's going to be in every sport, male or female. I think there's been a case in every sport where a man or a woman is tested positive. And so, we're seeing it in the women's MMA. I don't think it's going to be quite as common because, I, for one, wouldn't want the side effects that come along with it. I think that through proper training and a skill set and whatnot, I don't want to, I don't want to look like a guy. I don't want to sound like a guy. I don't want to, those kinds of things that usually come along with it. I think for the women is more detrimental because it's kind of, it's like, who wants that? I don't know. Call me crazy, but I definitely wouldn't want to go down that route.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't want you to sound like a guy or look like a guy either, to be honest. Leading up into a fight, I know you're done fighting for now. You're training, but just a question for you. What is your preparation like within the last few weeks? How much do you weight? How much do you cut with your weight? And do you use a dietitian? And do you think both of those are different between men and women in MMA?
Do I think that both of those are what?
Do you think there's a difference? Do you think men have to approach cutting weight and dietitians and whatnot? Do you think it's different between men and women in MMA?
Oh, for sure. I know there's a difference biologically. Men sweat easier generally than women do, and it's harder for girls to cut the waterway because our body just doesn't really want to seem to let it go. I know that it takes me about twice as long as it does for Brian to cut weight. We can go in the sauna at the exact same time, and he'll lose. We could just sit there. He'll lose double the amount of weight that I would. So I don't think generally women cut as much. And I also don't think that, I think women do a better job of dieting probably, or they just miss weight. I've seen a lot of girls missing weight, and I really frown upon that because we can't, in my opinion, I can't really afford to have that kind of, girls always miss weight, we're not as professional, this and that, so there is a difference, but no matter what, we're professionals and we have to take responsibility and make sure that you make the weight. I make sure I diet plenty far enough out. I usually cut between maybe 4 to 6 pounds, and I think most guys maybe cut on average, unless they're like a heavyweight or something, but on average maybe 5 to 15 pounds, anywhere in there. Mm-hmm. And I've known some girls to cut up to like 15, but I think that's pretty much the most that I've heard any girl cutting.
Right. Now, I guess we're on the topic of dieting and cutting weight and eating healthy. I know from what I've heard that you love cupcakes.
You are correct.
Now, without getting too crazy into it, I like cupcakes also. And I know that you've traveled all over the place and you're a cupcake connoisseur. Where is the best cupcake you've ever had? Where did you get it from?
The best cupcake?
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to have to say in Chicago. They have amazing cupcakes in Chicago, and one of the main reasons I enjoy going to Chicago for the cupcakes.
So when it comes time to go to Chicago, one of the first things that pops to your mind is I'm going to be able to get some of those Chicago cupcakes. All right. Well, thank you very much for your time. Is there anything you want to say to your fans?
Just thanks for being awesome. I really think that I have the best fans out there. My fans are not only cool, but they're funny. They make me laugh, and I really enjoy it. They have my back and everything. So I always appreciate their support, and, just thank you so much. Yeah, come on.
All right, well, thanks again for your time, and I do wish you luck in your road back to the title and just in general. Thank you very much again.
Yeah, thank you. Hopefully it's not too loud. I'm out here
No, it's all right. Thank
Thanks
you.
for making time, and I appreciate the interview.
Yeah, so there you go. Miesha Tate, great fighter, cool chick. Good luck in the future. I'm sure I'll be talking with her again.